continues. Let's get to it. For a holiday Monday, Travis and Sliwa right now.
Yeah! Still no Al, wherever Al may be, enjoying his all-star break. But Trav and Andy got you covered. Every day should be President's Day, Andy. I got to work here in like 45 minutes this morning. It was terrific. Usually it's kind of like an hour 20-ish, give or take, but right on in this morning.
It's like Coachella weekend.
It's, you know what it reminded me of? And honestly, it's like, I don't want to. It reminded me of pandemic driving.
There was a period where I realized we were thankfully starting to get back to what normal was before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. A friend of my daughter's, her best friend, like during the pandemic, they were having like regular play dates, outside where it's considered, fairly safe, but she needed to see people. Her friend lives normally like, 20-ish minutes. It can sometimes be a little bit worse in traffic from us.
Sure.
Beginning a part of the pandemic, I was getting there in like 10 minutes.
It was the only thing that was great about that.
Yeah.
Is that everybody got their closets cleaned, and that everywhere you wanted to go would take 15 minutes. Oh, you never got to the closet clean out phase of the pandemic?
Maybe someone else in my house did it. I don't recall doing it.
I don't have anything else to do. Might as well. I haven't worn that shirt in 6 years.
I did notice one day the closet was clean. I just don't remember doing it.
It wasn't you. Maybe somebody broke in and was bored and decided to organize it along the way. How was your weekend?
It was all right. It was pretty chill. My daughter had a school trip that she was out of town for a few days for, so she came back pretty tired. So we just chilled a lot, did some good cooking. We were talking about that before.
Yeah, you were.
Chicken,
I don't
marinated
know why,
it.
but I have a very easy time envisioning you like operating the wok. Like that just feels right to me.
I know what I'm doing around a wok. I generally speaking, I think I know what I'm doing in a kitchen. I'm pretty good. Pretty good.
There are Ask Andys about you in the kitchen, which we'll get to in a little bit, because with Slee, it's like trying to introduce something. Okay, this is the fire. This is the part that gets hot. This is the pan that you put on top of it. Then you put something in there to kind of sear, and it's like starting from scratch. You're an advanced student.
I remember, I don't know, I was probably about 30 or something, and a friend of mine came by my place because we were going out, and we were just meeting up at my place first. And I was eating these stir-fried vegetables that I made. And he came in and he's like, ooh, those look good. Where'd you get them from? I'm like, I made them. He's like, you made those? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you made those? I'm like, yes, I made them.
What part is unclear?
Yeah, and he's like, well, how'd you do it? I'm like, I took a bunch of vegetables and put them in a wok. I'm like, this isn't that hard. I'm like, I've made stuff maybe that would impress you.
Yeah.
And like this is when I really realized that this particular friend of mine like knows nothing about the kitchen.
I feel like you're one of two things. You either have a general understanding of how things work in there, or you have no idea whatsoever. Like there is no, I can make a few things. You either can make a lot of things or no things. I think that's fair.
Yeah, he fell on the no things side. I mean, he was genuinely stunned and amazed, and I think a little part of him suspicious that I was lying.
Yeah, like there's a P.F. Chang's around the corner that he doesn't know about.
I can see him like side-eyeing, looking around for like the carry-out box.
Like, you mean the one you can unfold into a plate?
Yes, the one that you can fold into a plate that we just learned.
Somebody said over the weekend, they sent it to me, that was, you do know that if you just unfold any box, it's basically a plate. That any box, if you undo all the seams, it's going to lay flat and be plate adjacent at least. So I don't know if we didn't know that or we just kind of didn't think it through, because he's right. Like, do you have the giant pile of boxes in your house, your garage, your backyard, or whatever? So every once in a while you got to go in, you got to break them all down to bundle them up to throw them in the trash, right? If you unbundle, if you flatten out the box, not just like stomp on it, but just tear it at the seam, they're all plates.
So essentially what you're saying is, if we wanted to have a dinner party, just go to the garage, break down a bunch of boxes.
You'd basically be eating off of an Amazon box if you come to my house.
Just have everybody sit on the floor around a bunch of boxes. Those are your plates?
That's basically what I'm saying, yes. And you'll sit on a bucket of baseballs. That will be your chair. And then your plate will just be an unfolded Amazon box.
I mean, I kind of feel like the reason that you and I both did not know this is because while it will technically work, I don't think it's a good idea.
It's not better than the box.
No.
The little carton of Chinese food is a perfect receptacle.
Or a plate. Like a plate's done pretty well over the years. Like, it's really caught on. There's a reason.
Yeah, plates are. It was a good invention.
Yeah.
Plates and forks were useful.
No, I'm telling you
for us
right
along
now,
the
like
way.
I'm not a professional investor or whatever, but if you want to invest in plates, they're not going anywhere.
So I've said this before. I'm not great when Susan's gone, right? Like I get stuff done and whatnot, but my weekend basically consisted, yesterday at least, I don't know if I left the couch for more than 10 consecutive minutes. I think I watched all of the LA Open or the Genesis Invitational from beginning to end. That's too much. You don't need to watch every shot. That's too much golf. I enjoyed every minute of it. Got to see a lot of Tiger, got to see Rahm win, Homa, all these things. But just kind of sitting, I had 2 full meals watching golf before I realized that I hadn't left the house. It was about 4 o'clock. I'm like, I should probably get outside at some point today.
Did you go outside?
I did. I went to the grocery store to get more food to cook dinner. That was my trip
Did you
outside.
watch more golf while making dinner?
It was over by the time I
Okay.
made dinner. And that's when I turned on the NBA All-Star game and I enjoyed it for a good 0 seconds. It was terrific. It was turned it on, I'm like, nah, don't need to see this, and immediately turned it off.
That seemed to be the
something
sentiment of a lot of the people playing in it.
Well, the coach, Mike Malone, was like this. I believe the exact quote was, "This is the worst basketball game ever played." So that's a ringing
Yeah,
endorsement.
Jaylen Brown was not a fan. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander emphasized that he enjoyed himself, but he can see what doesn't work about it. Like this year's model seemed to have a lot of complaining attached to it.
It did. Well, I think it when you have a game that is non-competitive, which that is by definition, it's a non-competitive endeavor, combined with a city where I don't think the players are dying to go out and see what Salt Lake City has to offer them. I think you're going to get some people saying, yeah, this should be in Vegas or New Orleans or Miami or Los Angeles or Chicago or New York or basically probably 25 of the 30 NBA cities. This is probably in the 5 that you don't want to be in.
Yeah, so basically by the time they were playing, they were so ready to leave, all they're thinking about is leaving.
Here's Jaylen Brown calling it a glorified layup line, which is probably a little generous.
Oh, it's fun. Games like this, real basketball is different. You know, this was like, this was like a layup line. Like, I don't know how much notoriety or he would want to get from this. It was just a glorified layup line, but we got to figure out how to make maybe the game a little bit more competitive. But if the fans like it, that's all that matters.
Well, okay, so a couple of things he said there. We need to find a way to make this a little bit more competitive. Put a pin in that. We're going to come back to it in a second. But the fans seem to enjoy it. Do they? Maybe the people in the arena are having a good time seeing Giannis and LeBron and whoever run up and down and do whatever that is that they were doing. It's not playing basketball. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but the fans I might push back on that a little bit.
Okay, look, I always try to remind myself not to put too much stock in like basketball Twitter, for example, because as vibrant a place as it can be, it is a really small sliver of the basketball watching universe.
Yeah.
So I'm always keeping that perspective. That being said, basketball Twitter hated this thing. Like basketball Twitter, from what I saw, and I think I'm a fairly, active, watchful member of basketball Twitter because it's my job, seemed unhappy with it. Didn't seem entertained by it.
What's entertaining about it? And look, we'll go back to the first thing that Jaylen Brown said, that is something needs to be done to make it more. I don't know, when you have a sport that by definition, and the NFL is the ultimate example of this, and hockey's probably in there, and then basketball is somewhere between that and what Major League Baseball is. If competing is inherently dangerous, then why are we doing it in something that doesn't count? Football finally figured, we're not going to play a football game. We're going to
I actually thought the flag football thing was fun.
I did too, because it was just enough of a football thing to have it be fun to see, but not nearly enough where you're like, this isn't what I paid to see.
Well, the players, though, you could tell were having fun.
Yes.
Like, that's part of it. Because I don't know if you've ever been to the Pro Bowl before. I have.
I have not.
Years ago, I got sent there for ESPN, the magazine, for an assignment. It was awful. Like, the event was awful. It was so unentertaining. And I was...
The actual event itself, or
Yes.
everything surrounding the event?
No, everything surrounding the event was, I guess, fun, but
Yeah.
that from the fans don't get to really participate in that. But like actually being in the stadium for the Pro Bowl, watching it live in front of me, it was unwatchable. It was terrible.
Worse than what we saw last night?
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Because here's the real difference. However bored you think the NBA players were during this particular All-Star game, it pales by how much the NFL players I saw clearly did not want to be out there and were worried about the ramifications of being out there.
Well, sure. I mean, you make one bad step, one bad, you're going to get tackled, I guess, theoretically. That could go wrong. But you're right that watching what we saw last night, no one seemed to be having a good, they're smiling and they're throwing their, but it's that I'm play acting, I'm having a good time, as opposed to I'm genuinely having a good time. I think most of us can tell the difference. That was not, nobody was enjoying that. Nobody was excited to see that. Nobody seemed to be all that excited to be out there. And I don't know how you fix it, because the idea, we'll play deep. No. Why? For who? For what?
I tweeted this out yesterday at Cam Brothers. One inherent issue for the All-Star game is that it used to be a meaningful showcase for players. Like, 10 years ago, but certainly 20 years ago, 30 years ago, this was a real opportunity for even some players in big markets, much less the ones in smaller ones, to actually have all the eyeballs on them. But now, in an age of global exposure and social media, League Pass, it doesn't offer the same opportunity and urgency. No. And in a rings culture, there's no cachet. So now it's basically just busy work. Like for the players, it's busy work.
If I want to see anybody in the NBA, it's a click away.
Yeah.
I'll go back to when I was a kid. To see Dominique Wilkins in the dunk contest against Michael Jordan, you could see Dominique very often, because the game of the week was the Lakers or the Celtics. That was it. Occasionally you'd get Philly. Occasionally you'd get a Milwaukee or something like that. But to see, and this was before Jordan was Jordan. This was when he was just score a lot of points Jordan, fly through the air Jordan, and Dominique Wilkins, the human highlight reel. This was your opportunity to see them. This is, they're not even NBA players participating in this thing. There's nothing about this that I have seen John Morant throw down amazing dunks in NBA games 100 times.
Okay, this is why Mac McClung winning the dunk contest, yes, there's an element of, little white guy who doesn't look like he should be playing basketball winning the dunk contest in the, broadly speaking, black sport. There is, jokes that write themselves from that. But part of what made that so compelling is Mac McClung was treating this like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, because it was.
For him,
it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. For all of the other players in the dunk contest, particularly the bigger names, they don't need to be doing this. And in some ways, it's like, why? For what reason? People get to see me dunk all the time.
Yes, but the Mac McClung portion of this, if I want to watch guys that I don't know dunk, there's YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see guys that I've never heard. I know he played a game with the Lakers. I think he played a game with the Bulls. He's not an NBA player. He's not. And so there are a lot of guys out at various parks around the country that can do really cool dunks. Mac McClung among them. But I don't really care. I am a star guy. I want to watch star guys do star things on star stages. That was none
You're
of
this show's John Ireland.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to watch non-NBA guys dunk basketballs. There's a universe out there, I'm sure that people do.
Excuse me, he is a member of the Philadelphia 76ers, Mac McClung. Thank you very much.
Not in the NBA, he's not. He's a two-way G League or whatever it is now. There's nothing about that I need to see. Everybody can say it was great. Were the dunks cool? Yeah, they were cool dunks. Okay. I mean, they were. I'd rather watch the one very brief moment I was watching the All-Star game was when Ja tried to go through his legs in the middle. I was like, all right, I'd rather watch him miss that than watch McClung take it off his buddy's head and throw it down. All right, Russell Westbrook is back in the league. He's still in LA. And I can't tell if this is my favorite idea ever or the worst idea ever. It's coming up next. It's Travis Slee, and he's in for Slee on 710 ESPN.
Hey. All right, I'm talking to all 710 listeners right now. Let's start off with this. March 18th, it's a Saturday afternoon. Miles Square Park in Fountain Valley. That is where I am about to teach everybody a little bit about pickleball. And the reason is because you see my father here is a world champion pickleball player. And while I have never played pickleball, not one time in my entire life, I already got my own racket, which means I'm about to kick some you-know-what. So come on out and support. Be there. We'll all watch college ball games together, and we are going to win.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
Oh, you all right?
Yeah, I'm totally fine. Okay. I'm okay. Yeah. First fall of the day. Oh, it's on camera.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
$710 ESPN.
Did you get out and start finalizing and honing your pickleball skills, getting ready for our tournament coming up here in a little bit?
I still need to. I have my racket we were
Paddle, Andy.
Paddle, my paddle. I think that probably answers your question. Paddle.
Yes.
I got my paddle. I need to find access to somewhere where I can practice, and by practice I mean play for the first time ever. And by play for the first time ever, I mean see pickleball for the second time ever.
Okay.
I've seen it once before.
You on TV?
No,
on YouTube?
I took my daughter. There's a park in Beverly Hills that has an outdoor volleyball net with like a sand pit area.
Okay.
And she plays volleyball, so she wanted to practice one day. So I was going to go out there and let her, like hit. I'd do my best to return, whatever.
Yeah.
But this court, this park has pickleball. Are they called courts?
They are.
Courts?
It's a court, yes.
Yeah, they have
you
pickleball
use your
courts.
paddle on the court.
Yes. They have pickleball courts. I watched a little bit of this. That's the most exposure I've had
That's
to
what you
pickleball.
did. Well, you need to get ready because our inaugural Pickleball Madness tournament's coming up March 18th. It's from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. at Agape Pickleball Center in Miles Square Park, Fountain Valley. Reserve seating is still available. You can register at ESPNLA.com. Of course, all of the spots to play in this event sold out like that, but it is open to the public. And a big thanks to Johnsonville Coffee and Zico Coconut Water. If you're thinking, well, after I come and watch Trav and Slee play pickleball, what am I going to be able to do? There's TV to watch all your college basketball games. There's Pop-A-Shot. There's demos and lessons for pickleball. You need one of those, Andy.
Yes, I do.
Kid Zone, Beer Garden, so you're going to have a good time there. complimentary food and drinks, DJ entertainment, 360 photo opportunity, all sorts of things to do. So make sure that you come on out.
The 360 was fun at the Mandy's.
It's always fun.
Yeah.
That you're seeing that in more and more things, and everybody loves it. We did it at the Rose Bowl. My family, they had one out there as well. March 18th, 10 to 4, for the ESPNLA inaugural Pickleball Madness Tournament. All right, so Russell Westbrook is a Clipper? That's what we're finding out. They are finalizing a contract buyout with the Utah Jazz. 9-time All-Star guard Russell Westbrook plans to sign with the L.A. Clippers. His agent, Jeff Schwartz, tells ESPN. League sources confirmed to The Athletic that Russell Westbrook is headed to L.A. today to take a physical. Expectation is that he will start with the Clippers, but it may not be right away. That breaking news on 710 is brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change, home of the 15-minute drive-through oil change. Visit SoCalOilChange.com for locations and coupons today. I do not. I sat here. I talked with Emily about this. Talked with Bergen about it. Haven't brought it up with you yet. Take me through the upside to this for the Clippers, because I know all the things that can go wrong. I know all the reasons this is a bad idea, and we'll talk about that. But for a team that seems to have a pretty good grip on what it is they want to do, they have a good coach, they have a good front office, they have a good owner. This seems like doing the same mistake that a lot of other people have done right in front of you, thinking, oh, no, it'll be different with us.
Okay, here are the theoretical pros or the theoretical upsides that I do think there is an on-paper logic to them if you remove all the contexts of, Russ's personality, the fact that he is, as I like to say, the least blendable player in the entire NBA, but just the on-paper arguments. The Clippers, if nothing else, seem like they think they need a more traditional point guard. Like, Terrence Mann has been doing this at times. It's not really what he does. Paul George has often been like a point forward. He can do it, but it's not really what he does. Kawhi Leonard can run sets. It's not really what he does. They don't really have anybody on there that you can legitimately say can run an offense, or that's his specialty. Okay. Russell Westbrook can run offenses. I mean, he can. It is what he can. You're giving me a look right now. He absolutely can. There are downsides that come with Russell Westbrook when he's not running the offense.
To steal your joke.
Sure, when he's not running the offense. But I think it is a clear, obvious statement. He can run offenses. The Clippers also have way better spacing than the Lakers had. They have, Kawhi Leonard is a three-point shooter. Paul George is a three-point shooter. Marcus Morris is a three-point shooter. Eric Gordon, if they're going to be playing together, three-point shooter. Like Bones Highland. Like they've got guys on this team who can hit threes. So you have a much more spread out floor for Russell Westbrook, where if it's going to work, that is how it works. Part of the issue the Lakers had is they really did not have enough shooting to make the most idealized version of Russell Westbrook work. The number 3 thing, I guess you could look at this and say it's a low-risk opportunity.
That's the part, Andy, for me that I think is why I think this is a terrible idea, and we'll talk about why it's a terrible idea coming up here. But the one thing that I don't have a good to, if it doesn't work out, you just cut him loose.
Right.
That's fine. There's very low risk.
There's some time. I would say there's some time lost in terms of the downside, because all of the time spent trying to figure out what to do with Russ, you could have instead been using trying to figure out the best version of your team. And they have a few new pieces to work in as well. Eric Gordon, Bones Highland, I believe it's Mason Plumlee, one of the Plumlees.
One of the Plumlees.
They've had guys in and out of the lineup. Like they have, gelling issues of their own. So there is a certain amount of time being wasted with Russ if it doesn't work. But again, those are the totally on paper, remove a lot of context, just basketball, skill set, basketball needs, theoretical reasons why it could work.
All right, so I want to go back. You said gelling issues, that perhaps the attempt to integrate him into what it is they're doing, if it doesn't work, that's a week or two or who knows how long, where you didn't figure out what you're ultimately going to have to go to the playoffs and play with. Okay, to use your description, he's the least blendable player. That's what we're talking about. That this is one of these things. I intellectually, I understand what you're saying. Intellectually, this Can he run an offense? Well, yeah, okay, fine. But does he? Will he? Is he enthusiastically going to do that? I'm going to go by what I've seen for a very long time, which is not really. Because what he does do is takes the ball and looks for ways to create things for himself, and then looks for a second way to create something for himself, and then a third, fourth, fifth, and then maybe if everything doesn't work out, I'm going to go get someone else. And then on top of all of that, it's a team that I'm struggling with the word here. I'm going to go with odd. Okay, I'm going to go with an odd mix of guys. Not a bad mix, not necessarily a losing mix, but your best player is non-traditional, shall we say, as far as his leadership style, okay? Your second best player seems very comfortable deferring to someone else. Fine. Now all of a sudden you have this guy that is unblendable, to use your word, or not very blendable. It just this whole thing feels like a whole bunch of stuff and none of it really fits together. This doesn't feel like somebody that is going to be comfortable taking a back seat, that is going to be comfortable being along for the ride.
Well, here's the thing, though. If he is theoretically going to start, he's not along for the ride. He's going to have a pretty prominent role.
He's their third best option, and this is exactly the same problem that the Lakers had with him, which is, you know, he's the third best option. I know he's the third best option. He doesn't.
Well, but I understand what you're saying. I don't totally agree with that assessment. Like, part of the real issue wasn't the idea of pecking order. Like, Russ got plenty of shots with the Lakers. The problem is Russ's utility off ball is so limited that in order to get the best version of Russ, you need to be playing LeBron more off ball, which, look, that period where AD was hurt, Russ and LeBron actually started playing pretty well off each other. Like, that thing started becoming less clunky towards the end of Russ's time with the Lakers. It was never going to be perfect because in order for it to be perfect, it needs to be interchangeable. It's never going to be interchangeable because Russ doesn't have utility off ball and in certain respects won't do the things that he could do. So it started turning into LeBron getting fed on the move, things like that. And they made it better. But it was more of a fit thing than I think Russ just hunting his own shots first, second, and third. Like, Russ actually would go out of his way to set up Anthony Davis. He'd go out of his way to set up other bigs on the team. If you ran the floor, Russ would typically reward you. Like, I'm not saying this to take up for Russ like he was somehow like underrated with the Lakers. I'm just trying to be fair.
I understand. And I'm trying to just remember everywhere I've seen him play ever. That when he came into this league, he was this really fast, incredibly athletic, explosive, just guy that would just attack the game. Fast forward how many years? This is 14th, 15th year, something like that. That he is exactly that, only a little bit less effective doing that. There's been very little added to what it is that he does.
He's not brought a lot of nuance.
No. And what he's going to bring to the Clippers is exactly what he was in Oklahoma City, in Houston, in D.C., and the Lakers, and now he's going to go do that there. And while I hear what you're saying, that if you run the floor, he's going to reward you. He will try to find you. I just want to see what happens the first time we're coming down to the end of the game, and Kawhi Leonard's standing there, and Paul George is standing there, and Russ is doing Russ things.
Yeah.
Like that's the point where everybody's going to be like, this is the guy we brought in. I just don't think they need that person
I would
on
not
the
have
floor.
done this. I mean, like, I want to make it clear. When I'm bringing up these theoretical upsides, this is not coming with ... and that's why I would have signed Russell Westbrook. I'm just explaining the reasons that it could. I mean, big problem they're going to have is they only have like 20-something games to make this work.
Yeah.
And that's not
how many games do you give it? Like, do you just say, listen, we're going to give this 8. We're going to give this 8 games, and if it doesn't look right, we have to cut bait and go in a different direction? Or do you give it the whole end of the regular season before you make that decision?
Because 8 games is not a reasonable amount of time.
What is it? The 20? The Lakers have 23, so let's assume they have 23 left as well. Do you give them all 23?
I think unless it is absolutely disastrous, you kind of have to give it all 23. And then once you're in the playoffs, if Russ starts becoming more of an issue, you just start decreasing his playing time. And if he really starts becoming a problem because you decreased his playing time, you send him away or whatever. But I'm just saying 8 games is not realistic.
No, it's not.
Like,
but there
you
are
have
only
to give
so
it
many
more.
games left.
Right, but in order to find a way to make this work, you have to actually give it the time. Otherwise, don't do it.
All right, 877-710-ESPN, 877-710-3776. The Clippers have 22 games left, Emily? 21?
21.
21 games left. So, okay, maybe you give them 5 before you decide whether or not it works, or all 21. Clipper fans, what do you think of this? Is this something you're excited to see? Is this a no moment? No, don't do that, because the Clippers are as in it in the Western Conference really as anybody else is.
They're fourth in the West.
Yeah, and dangerous because they have really good players.
If they're healthy and they have their whole roster, I hate saying this. I know it's a Lakers. Clippers are good.
They are
good.
Now they're also the Clippers, which is they demonstrated today by bringing in Russell Westbrook. We'll take your phone calls. Plus, Taylor told me something about the Raccoons this morning that is not good news for Taylor. It's coming up next. It's Travis Slee, and he's in for Slee, 710 ESPN. All right, we're reminding you that Pickleball Madness, or March Pickleball Madness, is coming up on March 18th at Miles Square Park in Fountain Valley. It's free for all non-participants, and there's a million things to do, Al.
All right, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Come out, hang out. We do these events every time we do them. We love having listeners there. We got our Pop-A-Shot Challenge. We got a beer garden going on. So we got everything going on. Don't forget that day.
Games for the kids. Bring the kids on out. It'll be a great time. You'll watch me and Al just wipe the floor with everybody because we're pickleball experts.
We'll be out in the first round.
Long. Each weekday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is Travis and Sliwa on 710 ESPN.
There is, of course, the possibility that Russell Westbrook comes in and is awesome, which is also very, very intriguing. Unlikely, but if he does everything that Laker fans wanted him to do for the Lakers, for the Clippers, that is a rather compelling news story, shall we say.
I'm picturing this, like, worst case, we know the apocalypse is nigh scenario where
it is.
Where Russell Westbrook averages, like, not just a triple-double for the entire playoffs, like each round, but we're talking like a 30-20-20 playoffs.
MVP stuff.
He leads the league in off-ball cutting baskets, and in the Western Conference Finals, locks up Kevin Durant. Like, Durant averages like 7 points per game. And then in the finals, where Russ ends up MVP, he switches off locking down Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And by switching off, I mean in the same possession, no help. It's like looks back at Kawhi. He's like, buddy, I got this.
I got them both.
You sit, Claw. I got this.
It would be the Laker fans' reactions to said scenario, but just if he just fits in perfectly with them, which, let me be very clear, I think is extremely unlikely. But in the event that happened, Laker fans would be jumping into traffic.
Oh, my God.
Because what he was supposed to be here, it's not going to happen. But if it did, it would be incredible to watch.
It becomes an indictment of Rob Pelinka and like the whole front office, like their inability to reach Russ. It becomes an indictment of LeBron and Anthony Davis, who recruited Russell Westbrook but yet could not reach him. It becomes an indictment of both Darvin Ham and Frank Vogel
too. Yeah,
like what was the matter with Frank Vogel? Like where he couldn't figure out how to extend his future with the Lakers by just having a relationship with Russell Westbrook. It was obvious.
Because, at this point, and we'll see, it didn't feel like he was incapable of having a relationship with Russell Westbrook. It felt like Russell Westbrook's incapable of having a relationship with other people.
We thought that then.
Until
all these other half-asses who couldn't figure it out with the Lakers, like, that's on them.
I don't think this is
clearly Ty
scenario.
Lue and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, they understand what it means to build bridges. Steve Ballmer understands what it means to build bridges.
I don't think we're going to have this conversation too often.
Feels unlikely.
Walking out to get a cup of coffee this morning, and Taylor says to me, "Hey, Trav, the Raccoons are back." They said, "Do you not know this story?"
No.
Oh, okay. Before we go any further, then let me. For the listeners that know, bear with me. For those of you that don't, this is
Sorry,
important.
really quick. Someone just tweeted at us. Keenan Mama just tweeted at us. It would be hilarious if someone else claimed him off waivers. Just beats
to block them. Is it like baseball where they can block people's in reverse order?
I guess.
Yeah, that would be pretty fun. I'd like that quite a bit. The other night, Taylor was asleep, and he wakes up hearing some animal eating out of his cat's dish.
He has a cat.
His cat is. Then he realizes the cat is on the bed next to him, and there is an animal eating out of the dish right next to his in the house. He looks down, and there is a ginormous raccoon staring up at him, eating the cat's food in the bedroom.
Do you close your doors at night?
So my cat's indoor-outdoor, and I had not been closing my door, but that has since changed. I've been closing it and have had no signs of raccoons in my house.
Yeah, funny that correlation. Yeah. Close the door.
It did seem to solve the raccoons in the house problem.
The detectives that you hired to figure this out.
However, you showed me a video, Taylor, this morning. You said, "Trav, the raccoons are back." My first question was, in your house? Not in the house.
Fortunately not, no. So I heard last night, it sounded like some shuffling going on my roof. And I went out to check it out outside. Took my flashlight out there. I climbed on a stump so I could see what's going on, and I saw that there were some raccoons. I don't know how to say this.
Enjoying each other's company.
Yeah, procreating.
Yes.
Yeah. I have some video of it. I put it on my Twitter feed.
All you can see are the eyes. No, it's hilarious because all you can see is the reflection of their eyes, and they're right on top of each other.
Did one of them introduce themselves as like the cable installer, like the pizza delivery guy? Since you're making a video of this,
I think they're doing this to spite me.
You're going to have to get some sort of animal control out there, or traps or something. You're going to be lousy with raccoons here. It's not that kind of movie. They're in love. They've been a long-term
You're a musician.
Relationship.
You're a musician.
They didn't stop doing it. I mean,
Taylor,
the video didn't bother them at all.
Your mind went to a place that I was not expecting.
Exactly.
We're going to have some baby raccoons very soon.
I was going to say, they're going to be, and I don't know if we have any veterinarians out there. Like, I would imagine raccoons have litters of pups or whatever they're called. But you're going to be infested here before too long. They're going to be able to get into the roof and in the attic and all of those sorts of things.
The smaller ones get inside. They have a food source now.
Ooh. We actually, in the office in my house, I could hear this like rattling inside the walls at night. I'm like, what is this? So I figured it must have been a nocturnal animal. Exterminator came by, removed a rat that I could only see it in the garbage bag that the exterminator had, but
had heft.
It had the bag was bending.
One rat?
One rat. This one rat was like a wildebeest.
It's the king rat. It's the biggest of them all. But apparently raccoons have between 2 and 5 babies in a litter.
There you go. And I'm guessing Taylor, because these guys were having such a nice time, that's 5. I believe that looked like a 5 litter that was getting ready to be sprung on Taylor's house.
Close your doors, Taylor.
Did you throw rocks at him or something to get him the hell out of there? What did you do?
I yelled at them.
Hose?
I hollered at them a little bit, but
lit candles.
I don't know what can I do? Climb up there and start swinging at them?
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I would have
Throw
thrown
something at them?
a rock or something, or squirted them with a hose, something to get them out of there.
I mean, they're in the middle of something, Travis.
That's what I'm afraid of. I don't want them to come back, that this is the spot where they feel, I don't know if they're like salmon, and they return to where they were sprung or spawned.
Taylor's house is their no-tell motel.
It's their end of their date night every week.
Yeah, it feels like this is a very bad idea. You need to call animal control, Taylor. You need to get control
you really
of your
do.
Raccoon problem.
You don't want this to grow. Like word gets around that your roof is the spot.
All right, I'll call him tonight.
Taylor, speaking of, this has nothing, speaking of, it's not the right transition. The Sacramento Kings have the second most difficult schedule of the remaining part of the NBA. Did you know that?
Yes, I did. A lot of Phoenix. Just played Dallas twice.
Clippers twice left. They got a lot of stuff coming up. You ready for this?
I am. I'm ready for the hopeful playoff push.
Do you like that the Clippers
Holding my
got
breath.
Russell Westbrook? As a Kings fan, do you like that?
I think Westbrook has a lot left in him. I do.
Do you really?
I do.
Why?
Because I think the Lakers are the problem.
Kings fan.
Yeah. He has more assists than LeBron James for the season. I mean, he's a playmaker.
Is he?
This whole notion that
he is a playmaker. It is
he's 10th all time in all-time assists.
Well, I
there are only
understand
two
that.
players ahead of him on both the all-time scoring and assist list. It's Oscar Robertson and LeBron. Like, that's an impressive achievement.
Wait, explain that number. What's that number?
Russ is currently, I believe, 33 or 32 on the all-time assist list.
Okay.
Or on the scoring list, I'm sorry. He's
Okay.
10th on the assist list.
Yep.
He's like 32, 33 on scoring. The only two players ahead of Russ on both lists.
Okay.
LeBron, Oscar Robertson. I mean, that's impressive. It is. To everybody but you.
It is. I don't want to completely throw cold water on it, but it is impressive until you take the context of it, and this kind of is something that I think we should get into at some point. Maybe we'll do it after Ask Andy. Like, his legacy in this league is what? He has because he's certainly going to go to the Hall of Fame. He is certainly one of the more exciting, dynamic players of his era. But it's an odd, like, the takeaway from the Russell Westbrook experience is fill in the blank from right there. There's 10 different things you could throw in there. There is no just one great player. It's not, yes, he's a great player, but there's a huge but after that. Is he a great team? I don't know. Is he a winning player? I don't know. There's a whole bunch of buts where if you're just going down the list, LeBron or it's any of these other guys, it feels like he's in a separate category from those guys.
We'll talk about that. I actually think it's less separate than you think it is once you actually start thinking about it.
Let's try a quick phone call here. Let's go to Long Beach and Marvin. Marvin, you're on with Trav and Andy. What's up, Marvin?
Trav, you're going to eat your words, man.
That's what they said when the Lakers got him, but go ahead.
He's going to kill the Lakers. He's going to kill the league watch. He's going to make his presence known because he has a chip on his shoulder. You know, he just went.
He had one when he joined the Lakers.
And he had one when he went to Houston. And he had one when he went to everywhere else.
The Lakers are the problem. They are the problem. It was LeBron's. It was actually LeBron had the problem. He couldn't play with them. I mean, come on, isn't LeBron the guy that everybody likes to play with, and he makes everybody better? Well, he didn't make Westbrook better. It was so. I believe he's just gonna be one of the best guys. I think it's one of the best things that they find a diamond in the rough with Russell Westbrook. So, and I'm not even a Clipper fan. I hated him that they had to let him go. But honestly, it's the Lakers, man. They have a huge problem.
Okay, Marvin, thank you for the phone call. I'm just going to throw this out there. We can circle back to this after Ask Andy. Kevin Durant couldn't leave fast enough. When he went to Houston, the Rockets said, nope, no thank you. He went to Washington, which worked out okay.
Washington was not looking to trade him. They were not looking to.
The Washington thing was like, all right, fair enough. The Lakers, about 5 minutes after he arrived, they're like, well, this is a terrible idea. And now we'll see what happens with it. When everywhere you go, people are very anxious to have you not be here anymore, it's not everybody else's fault.
Well, the Thunder were not anxious to have him leave. Like the Thunder,
maybe not, Andy, but the player Kevin Durant is the best example of this. He could have easily stayed had he wanted to stay.
You've seen his judgment.
I'm not saying that, but this is not somebody that people are dying to play with. Is my point. My point is that even a great scorer like Kevin Durant, LeBron James, James Harden, these other guys, they're like, no, man. I don't think that everybody has been wrong about him.
Sure, except
why did LeBron want him in the first place then?
That's a different question altogether.
LeBron does not always have good judgment with this stuff.
That's the answer to that question.
The players that you cited, Kevin Durant, James Harden, they seem awfully hard to make happy in terms of who they play with as well. So in that sense, I don't know if you can put that all on Russ.
It's not, okay, but it's all of them. If it were half of them, sure. But Anthony Davis never really fit really well together. And LeBron James,
I don't agree with that, actually. I think Russ and AD fit together fine.
Then why was it so bad?
Well, in part because AD's never available. The guy that actually fit with Russ better wasn't ever around.
All of these things, it was that. Everywhere he goes, they're excited to see him leave. That can't be everybody else's fault.
He's a really, really loudly imperfect player. I'm not denying any of that. I'm not trying to be the guy that's Russ's advocate here. I thought trading for him was lunacy when the Lakers did it. Like, all I'm saying is
two of us.
All I'm saying is that there are a lot of guys around the league that you're citing that wanted to get rid of Russ that have a difficult time seemingly deciding who the hell they want to play with.
I don't disagree with that, but it's all of them. If it were one or two, or so, it seems to be.
Bradley Beal liked him.
Paul George wants to play with him.
Paul George liked him.
Paul George is one of those guys that just somebody else do it. Somebody else do it. That's not the guy.
Somebody else do it.
Indeed. Ask Andy coming up next. It's Travis Sleeves.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
Oh, you all right?
Yeah, I'm totally fine. Okay. I'm okay. Yeah. First fall of the day. Oh, it's on camera.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
All right, I'm talking to all 710 listeners right now. Let's start off with this. March 18th, it's a Saturday afternoon. Miles Square Park in Fountain Valley. That is where I am about to teach everybody a little bit about pickleball. And the reason is because you see my father here is a world champion pickleball player. And while I have never played pickleball, not one time in my entire life, I already got my own racket, which means I'm about to kick some you-know-what. So come on out and support. Be there. We'll all watch college ball games together, and we are going to win.
Thursday, Monday on Travis and Sliwa. Andy Kamenetsky, AK, in for Sliwa, which means it's time for another edition of Ask Andy. And Ask Andy is presented by our friends at Harrah's Resort SoCal. Find your funner state of mind with a visit to Harrah's Resort SoCal. Voted best resort in funner California. From dining to unwinding, you'll find fun around every corner. Learn more at harrahssocal.com. That's right, let's do it. It's time for Ask Andy.
877-710-ESPN. That's the phone number if you'd like to get in and ask Andy on the phone. Of course, you can send them to us on Twitter as well, at Travis Rogers. Let's start right here with TFP. By the way, we're looking for Trav and Slee pickleball team names. So if you would like to offer us a suggestion, you can send that on Twitter. You can call us as well. TFP is asking you, Andy, what our team name should be. Is it Pick Van Exel, Picky Mantle, Pick and Shorty, or Jalen Paddle?
Pick Van Exel's the best.
Pick Van Exel's pretty good.
Pick Van Exel's pretty great because it brings in pickleball. It brings in the LA flavor. It brings in both of your love for the Lakers, and that is an era that you experienced, like in LA.
I think Eddie Jones was Slee's first true love, but Nick Van Exel's on the list.
Eddie Jones, by the way, you cannot underestimate how popular that guy remained. Like, I have heard from Laker fans still angry about the Eddie Jones trade. Like, still mad, even though, Glenn Rice was a little bit underwhelming, but you got a championship with him.
Yeah.
When you traded Eddie Jones, you did it in part to open up more time for Kobe. I think we can all agree that worked out all right.
It seems like
yes,
decision.
you could have kept Eddie Jones in LA and done all, but I'm just saying it worked out in the end. Laker fans still mad about Eddie Jones. They loved Eddie Jones.
Pick Van Exel. Bergman, write that down. That's the leader in the clubhouse.
I like
right
Pick
now.
Van Exel.
That's a pretty good
Not
idea.
salt and fat?
So, but that's only me. You know what I mean? Like, it needs to be a little bit of Al, a little bit of me to have the team name that works. And salt and fat is just me, right? Like, I don't know where Al.
He's kind of salty.
Yeah.
Is he?
Sometimes.
During this segment, anyway.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. That's a good point. Here you go, 805 Raider. Andy, if you invited some family and friends over for a semi-formal dinner night at your home, what's on the menu? You have 1 week's notice.
Okay. I actually saw this one and thought about it. First thing you want to do, because I assume that this is basically me being in charge of the whole thing. I don't have, like assistants or whatever.
No, you're knocking this out.
Right. My wife's in charge of getting the house looking nice, all that stuff.
And barware.
Right. And barware. Yes. She loves to collect herself some barware.
I couldn't help myself.
So it's okay. I thought about this in terms of stuff that I can make that I think I make well, but also a lot of it can be spent self-cooking or like doesn't require a lot of hands-on for everything all at once. So I think I'm going to go with some appetizers. I've got an indoor pizza maker that's like a pizza stone pizza maker. It's fantastic. It tastes like wood fired, but it doesn't heat up the whole house.
And Trav hates homemade pizza, so don't give it to him.
No.
He showed me this oven that is a bit of a game changer, Emily. We were discussing this morning.
Pretty great. I actually brought in some of my homemade pizza for lunch today, so you can see how it turned out.
See?
I
mean, let's maybe taste.
Okay, maybe we can taste a bit. But I'm going to make some like pizzas, thin crust pizzas, and a little garlic bread as appetizers. Then I'm going to have like a pretty simple arugula salad with some goat cheese, Kalamata pitted olives. They got to be pitted, otherwise it becomes a mess.
Break my teeth.
And then just like a simple olive oil, lemon juice, salt, and pepper. Just toss that around, but again, pretty light. I'm going to make some roasted potatoes in the air fryer using this Trader Joe's spice I love. I don't know if it's pronounced ahika or ajika.
Okay.
So they say it's Georgian seasoning blend. I imagine
Georgia like Atlanta or Georgia like Eastern Europe?
I believe Eastern Europe.
Okay.
It's got a little bit of heat to it, but it's not overwhelming. I think those with like some garlic, a little bit of oregano, some salt turn out really well. And then I went back and forth between, do I want to make a roasted pork shoulder, which again, you put that in the oven for a while and it's sort of working, or do I want to make a pozole, which is like a Mexican stew? I usually like making the verde, the green, over the red, but I've made both. Either one would be a pork dish, assuming nobody has any type of objection to pork.
Nope.
I would want to go. So you just
Speaking for
invited
everyone.
yourself over.
Oh no, the question very specifically says friends and family. So I expect an invitation to this event.
I was going to go pork just because I feel like it's something that people get less often, and I think I do pork pretty well.
That sounds amazing.
So that would be, with 5 minutes to plan this thing, that was what I came up with.
That's in depth. You can throw a nice party.
I think I'd do it pretty well.
Dessert?
I can tell.
Honestly, I'm not a dessert maker. Dessert's probably just going to be something simple.
Chips Ahoy.
Or the guests could bring the dessert, if they want something.
That's something that they could do that.
All right, let's go to Jason Torres, who writes, describe the first time your parents caught you drunk or high. What was the punishment or what was a punishment of that magnitude in the Cam household?
Honestly, I don't remember, maybe because I was drunk or high, but I honestly don't remember. I was really thinking about this. I don't remember ever getting in serious. You know what's funny is all of the drinking that I could have gotten in trouble in high school for, actually, not that I think I don't think my parents were clueless. I think they just sort of accepted certain things and hoped that I wasn't a complete idiot, which I was, but I guess it worked out.
Everybody is.
A lot of my busted happened after I left.
Really?
Like they found a lot of, there were a couple times I had parties, and for some, I don't know, this is like 17-year-old logic, I didn't just toss the cans in a garbage can like any normal person would do. I hid them. And I hid these garbage
Were you gonna
bags.
recycle them later?
No, I don't know. I guess I was worried that maybe if the trash came late, my parents would see it or something. I don't know. But I put a bunch of trash bags, beer can trash bags, in a ceiling panel in the basement. And my parents found this a couple years later, and they asked Brian about it because Brian's younger than me. Brian's like, that was Andy. And they're like, oh, you're just playing. No,
it's
Andy.
not. It was Andy.
I think he basically talked them into believing that it was me by, who do you think is dumber to do that, me or Andy? And they're like, no, you got a point. Another time, my parents don't really drink.
Okay.
They had a bar, but it was mostly for other people. They don't really drink. So the bar basically became my bar because they wouldn't notice anything. But some of the clear liquors I refilled with water.
I think everybody's done that at some
Right,
point or
except
another.
my parents basically figured this out one time. Most of their friends don't really drink either, but the rare party they had where people drank, they started pouring a vodka tonic, and it was basically just water and tonic. And again, they went to my brother, and he's like, that's Andy. So most of my getting caught happened after I was living in the house.
I'm just going to start using that was Andy whenever something comes up. I'm just going to throw you under the bus, much like Brian did. Last one. Jacob in OC writes, if quitters never win and winners never quit, who came up with quit while you're still ahead?
If winners never quit.
And quitters never win.
Who came up with quit?
While you're still ahead.
Someone just apathetic. Someone that just doesn't really care. They got bored with the situation. They just got completely bored.
Yeah, but if you quit when you're ahead, but it hasn't ended, you lose.
Only
right?
Only if you have decided that you didn't get what you wanted. If the competition in your mind is over and you got what you wanted, then you won.
But if we're playing basketball to 11, let's say, and I'm ahead 7-5 and I quit, I haven't won the game.
Are you done with the competition? Have you decided that you've gotten enough out of this competition that you wanted? Then you've won. You know why? Because you're not wasting your time anymore. You're doing something that you prefer to do instead. Ergo, you won.
It's an interesting way to think about it. Speaking of basketball out at the park, I got out there and got some shots up this week, and I may have damaged a relationship in the process. That's coming up next. It's Trav and Slee, 7
from a Brands radio station.
It is the show that begins 9 hours of LA sports talk all day long. Each weekday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is Travis and Sliwa on 710 ESPN.
Kick it! Got a couple of late Ask Andys that we'll get to in just a little bit. One kind of piggybacking on you being a delinquent as a high school person, getting in a little trouble after you left, which, by the way, that's the perfect way to get in trouble. Like, you're over here, you're going to SC. What are they going to do?
No, there was no trouble.
I was going to say, it's the right way to do it. You might have gotten that now Andy phone call, but other than that, I mean, that's no big deal.
I remember one time, again, like the punishment that may or may not have happened for drinking in high school, I don't remember. Maybe because, to quote Homer, I was too drunk. That's because you were drunk. And how? I don't remember this, but one time Brian said that I called from school.
You called from college.
Yeah, I called from college. It's like, he said it was like 4 a.m, 3 a.m, St. Louis time.
Okay.
So it's probably like, I don't know, 1 or 2
here. Yeah.
And he picks up the phone. He was asleep. He's got school the next day. He's like, hello? I'm like, hey. He's like, hey. I got a question for you.
Oh, no.
He's like, yeah? I go, is it bad if you're throwing up blood? And he's like, probably.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. I'll talk to you later.
You called Brian for his expertise in this particular issue.
Well, I've apparently really been drinking, Travis. I was throwing up blood.
And how?
Yeah. He said, I just said, oh, yeah, that's what I thought. I'll talk to you later. And he's like, wait a minute. Is he going to be alive? like you can't just leave me hanging on that.
Would be concerning. Like if Michael got that call from Bobby, and I would be alarmed.
Yeah, he said he was totally concerned. He's like, I don't know what to do with this information.
By the way, we just found the Trav and Slee pickleball team name. Somebody said Pick Van Exel, right? Which is really good. But Mario heard that and spun it just a little bit, because Pick Van Exel is pickleball plus Nick Van Exel, which Al's the super Laker fan among the two of us. I like the Lakers, but Al's beyond my level of Laker fandom. Thick Van Exel. So we've got that was Mario's suggestion, because I can have the thick portion of this covered. He's the Van Exel portion. So I think that's what we're going to go with. I think Thick Van Exel is the Trav and Sleep.
Are you going to go CK or CC?
Emily suggested that we should CC this, right, Emily?
Of course.
Yeah.
So Thick, THICC, Van Exel. Yeah. I like
Thick Van Exel.
I like it.
Does the Sleep need to be here to approve it?
Well, he's never here, so what are we going to do? I mean, I would reach out, but I know that would just go into a black hole and never come back. I don't think he would mind going with that. I think that's something that he would sign off on.
These are decisions that have to be made while he was gone. He knew the risks of leaving.
Look, if he wants to override it, that's fine. I don't really have that strong of a feeling about it, but Thick Van Exel sounds really, really good. And, of course, we're talking about our Pickleball Madness tournament coming up on March 18th, 10 to 4 at the Mile Square Park in Fountain Valley. Reserved seating is still available. You can register at ESPNLA.com. Thank you to our sponsors, Johnsonville, Hoffy, and Zico Coconut Water. There's all sorts of stuff. All the spots to play in the tournament have already been filled, but definitely come out. There's all sorts of stuff to do. There's a kids zone, there's beer garden, there's complimentary food and drinks, there's a DJ, there's the 360 photo booth. You will have a great time watching us play bad pickleball. I promise. I promise that'll be a good time.
I can't wait. I think this is going to be really fun. I have never played pickleball in my life. The only time I've ever even held a paddle is when they gave me mine.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a great time. So, not pickleball, but I got a little bit of exercise this weekend. So, Michael had a baseball game on Saturday night. Okay? So, he's kind of like, didn't want to go do a whole bunch of stuff. I'm like, but you got to get out and move around a little bit. You can't sit around all day and then go. So, we decided we're going to go down to the park and shoot some baskets. And so, yeah, okay, let's go down there and do it. So, we walked to the park and we're playing horse, and he loses to me. And he's 17 and competitive, and he doesn't play basketball, but he plays basketball, right? And he's like, all right, let's go again. I'm like, all right, best out of 3. All right, so we play a second game, and he beats me. And he found this one stupid shot that I couldn't make, but I couldn't make it, and he kept going back to it. So we go to a third one. I beat him. He just said, best out of 5. I win game 4. So now it's 3-1, and he officially furious. My 51-year-old dad beats me at the horse. This is stupid. Let's just go home. Like, what are you, 9 years old? What's the matter with you? Come on, man. He's all right, let's play one-on-one. I'm like, this could go very badly for me because playing horse is one thing. I can knock down a shot here and there. Playing basketball is not really my area of expertise. So he destroyed me in a game of one-on-one because he's not bigger than me, but he's much, much stronger than I am at this point in his life. So he felt a little bit better after he did. But our relationship was one of those things that he thought that he had surpassed his father in certain things. But it's like, let me just remind you that I do have some dad strength, that I do have some things that I could figure out. He's very disappointed to lose to, as he put it, my 51-year-old dad who doesn't do anything other than play golf and watch TV. Like, well, and beat you at horse. So
what's your excuse now there, buddy?
When did you first beat your parents at a sport?
The only thing I can beat my dad at still to this day is golf. And that I was probably 20 or so because he was a very, very good, and still is a good athlete. But now he's older. He's in his 70s. But
Take him out now and smoke him.
I played basketball in high school, right? Like I played on a varsity basketball team, and so I wasn't very good, but I was on the team. I could do it. My dad played basketball in college, okay, like in the Pac-10. So he could just, even when he was in his 40s, turn you inside out. It was just when this was deeply disappointing, much like Michael. But at least he wasn't a fat 51-year-old guy who does nothing but watch TV. It's great.
And eat.
But there's nothing better than beating your kids at something. It's one of those things that just makes you feel really good to remind them that they still have power over you.
Old man still got it.
Absolutely. I never really had it, but neither does he, so I'm going to...
Can Brian beat you at anything, Andy?
Yeah, he can. I consider myself a good athlete, not great, not bad. Brian was a better athlete than I was. He worked a lot harder at it than I did. Like, he was much more consumed with it than I was. But, yeah, he's a better athlete.
If it's not too late, who did teenage Andy get to buy him booze? Hashtag Ask Andy.
Teenage Andy.
You would just go in there?
I had a fake ID before I had a real driver's license. And I had cojones about using it.
Did you go in there? It was like, does it say you're 21, or did you have one of those terrible ones that said you were 25 when you were 17?
I usually found the sweet spot of like 21, 22, and I learned everything I could at the time. I believe my first one was from Arkansas, so I learned a lot about Little Rock. I had the stats memorized, and a lot of it was just, you had to go in there with complete confidence. Like, you had to go in there like, I am Andy, whatever my last name is, on this thing, from Little Rock in St. Louis, because I'm a Wash U student or a SLU student. Like, you had to go in with absolute confidence. You also learned some of the places that just didn't care.
I think that's the key. I think you need to go to the places that don't care, because I had one towards the end of high school, and the name on the driver's license was Nolan Ryan. Not one person ever said, really?
That's just a step above McLovin.
Well, that was one of those things. Like, no one looks. Right? They don't look. All they want you to do is hand them a thing so they can say, hey, he showed me something.
The go-to place that we discovered, at least my high school friends and I, was called U City Market. And the point where you really realized they just don't care is one time the people at the market, they went out and helped this friend of mine load up the booth.
I don't know statute limitations.
You're 21 and in high school. Good for you.
Guys, when I was a junior in high school, we had guys on. We'd go play a game. We'd come home. We'd get in our cars at the school. They would stop at a liquor store near the school in their baseball uniforms representing the high school and buy beer.
Again, you find the places that don't care, that have plausible deniability. The guy behind the counter is like, look, he's a 21-year-old idiot who flunked high school like 5-6 times. That's on him. That's not on me.
Not on me.
I don't ask questions.
San Pedro and McGee. McGee, you're on with Trav and Andy. What's going on, McGee?
It's not going to work out. It never works with the Clippers and Lakers. switch teams. It just never works. Rondo, Odom, Norm Nixon. I mean, have we learned this lesson before? That's all.
Reasons. I don't think this is going to work for a variety of different reasons. Namely, Russell Westbrook, I love your phrase, is the least blendable player of my era, and I don't think that all of a sudden he's going to become something totally different than he's been every other day of his life.
This is now, though, kind of intriguing. I'm now trying to think about former Lakers that went to the Clippers.
Who did he say, Odom, and who else?
Well, he said Odom, and, Odom began with the Clippers.
Right.
And his first stint with the Clippers, he was fantastic. It was the second stint where it was all right. But, came to learn there was a lot going on in Elo's life then, just period. Jordan
Matt
Farmer.
Barnes.
Zubats.
Zubats, actually.
Zubats has been much better with the Clippers than he was with the Lakers.
Zubats worked out pretty well.
And by the way, Zubats wasn't bad with the Lakers either. It's
No.
just that they decided to give him away for no reason.
Well, they needed Mike Muscala.
Was that who it was?
Yes.
I thought it was was it not Rodney? Reggie was it Reggie
No,
Bullock?
Reggie Bullock.
Yeah.
That was a different. Who did they trade for Reggie?
That was another one of those. Okay.
No, Reggie Bullock made sense. He was a defender, he can shoot. That made sense, and they didn't trade anybody who really. I think they traded Svi Mikhailuk for Reggie Bullock. Like that's a totally defensible.
I thought Reggie wasn't part of the. Who am I thinking of? The Zubats deal?
No, it was Zubats from Mike Muscala straight up. Like that was a fireable offense right there. That was a
great.
Terrible trade.
Well, he's a good player for the
yes,
Clippers.
He
has been since they got him.
Yes, and he at least showed some. To be fair, he definitely has been better as a Clipper than a Laker, but you don't move him for Mike Muscala. But I'm thinking about other ones like Smush
Barnes
Park
played for both.
Yeah, he had a couple stops. Like Matt's played for all four of the California teams.
Oh, that's true.
Not only has he played for all four of the California teams, other than the Lakers, I believe he's played for all four of the California teams twice.
No kidding.
I'm pretty sure Barnes played for the Kings, the Clippers,
Bring
and
it back to the
Warriors.
let's round that off.
But like Smush Parker had a stint with the Clippers, did not work out.
None of these
Sasha
guys-
Vujacic.
Sasha played for the
Yes,
Clippers?
he did. Jordan Farmar went to the
I
Clippers.
don't think this is the reason it's not going to work. I think the reason it's not going to work is because the player we're
not a
talking
curse.
about is Russell Westbrook.
It's not a curse.
I think that has a lot more to do with it than anything else. Speaking of, right, what is Russell Westbrook's legacy in the NBA? That's coming up next. It's Travis Slee. Andy's in for Slee on 710.
Breaking news powered by Valvoline Instant Oil Change.
Home of the 15-minute drive-through oil change. Visit SoCalOilChange.com for coupons and locations.
Big features, big ink, big savings. That's what you get when you buy an HP printer at Staples. Like the
What is the go-to snack, Andy, when the tummy filler at home? This is from John in Fullerton. Sandwich, quesadilla, microwave burrito, or something boring like an apple?
First of all, the first three choices they gave, those are bigger than snacks. Like, those are meals. Like,
well,
one does not have a burrito for a snack.
It says, what's your go-to quick tummy filler?
Oh, okay. Go-to... I don't usually have a lot of microwave burritos laying around.
Nor do I,
so
unfortunately.
That's not going to be a quickie.
That's a late-night 7-Eleven gas station. Hey, I need something with 900 calories in my stomach before I go to sleep.
So what are the other options? A sandwich?
Sandwich, quesadilla, microwavable burrito, or something boring like an apple?
Actually, quesadilla, because they're good and they're really quick and easy to make.
Satisfying, too.
Yeah, quesadilla is good.
PB&J on that list?
I like PB&J.
I do too. That whenever it's just a quick, Emily always rolls her eyes because Alan is our go-to.
You are obsessed with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You guys talk about it all the time.
We can make it in 30 seconds. It's satisfying. When you eat it, you're not hungry anymore.
It's always underwhelming.
Did you ever read the piece that Baxter Holmes did for ESPN?
Yes.
About peanut butter and jelly and how it's part of the NBA culture?
For sure. I did read that.
It was really interesting.
And there's a reason why when I was doing the Laker games pre and post, I would go into the media room and take one of those Uncrustables and put it into my suit coat pocket for when I would wander back over here later at night and got a little Uncrustable ready to go. It says very soft bread, Andy. It's very important. It's the best part about it.
Bread is an underrated part of any sandwich. Antoine Jameson, former Laker, then went to the Clippers.
You're gonna,
I'm obsessed with this now.
I feel like there's a column coming at some point. You need to maybe Locked On Lakers can do some sort of Laker to Clipper segment or
this
two.
This has really gotten me thinking. I'm going through now like the last 15 years of Lakers, trying to see if anybody jogs the memory.
And also, what's the difference between a Clipper to Laker and a Laker to Clipper? Like, is there a difference in genre of story?
It's a weird deal because for 30-ish years, if you were going from one to the other, you were either going from dreadful to the best or from the best to dreadful. That's not true anymore. The Clippers have been, minus the championship the Lakers had a few years, last decade, the Clippers have been far more successful than the Lakers, minus that one season. So it feels more of there's more there than it was through the first 30 years of that deal.
Steve Blake was he was the rare better as a Clipper than as a Laker. Like I remember Steve Blake, it was like one of the last games of the season, had a triple-double against the Lakers, and then the Lakers ended up signing him that offseason.
Is that true?
Yeah, it is true.
Steve Blake had a triple-double? Stopped me in my tracks.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So with triple-doubles in mind, Russell Westbrook, according to reports this morning, is going to sign with Clippers. Mm-hmm. That he has to clear physical, has to complete the buyout with Utah, et cetera, but he is coming to the Clippers, and according to The Athletic at least, that he's expected to be a part of their starting five once they kind of get him in the building and figure out what's going on. Put that aside for a second. We'll come back to it. Westbrook's career is fascinating to me because he came in with number 4 pick, I believe, and was kind of a, really? And it was the right pick. He was terrific. He becomes a multi-time All-Star, wins an MVP, averages a triple-double, and becomes one of the most exciting, dynamic players in the league for a period of time. And if you're flipping channels and you see the Thunder playing, you want to stop because Russell Westbrook's going to do something cool. Gets traded to the Rockets and doesn't really work out. Gets traded to the Washington Bullets or Wizards, and it's okay. It's not great, but it's not a disaster. It's okay. Lakers decide they need the third star. They bring him in. Disaster. From more or less from the moment he got here to the moment he left, never really worked in any meaningful way. And now he's on his way to the Clippers. He is about the same player he was when he came into the league. He's an MVP, multiple-time All-Star. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. What is his legacy in this league? Like, when we look back at his career, when it's all said and done, what are we going to think of? A really good player that just kind of bounced around quite a bit at the end, or is it more than that?
Well, I mean, look, there was, ironically, with the bouncing around and the journeyman element, there appeared to be a period where he was going to be a one-franchise guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he spent over a decade with the Thunder. He was quite good with them. I think people also, though, because we've become such a championship-obsessed NBA culture, we underrate winning. Like in the regular season, we underrate just winning as a thing. Russell Westbrook's done a lot of winning. There's been a lot of winning in his career. He's been to the playoffs just about every season he's been with the NBA. You know, I know he's never won a championship. I know he's only been in the finals one time, but there aren't many times where you look at his team in the playoffs and said they were the better team and they lost.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, either the teams were equal or the other team was actually better than his and should have gone. You know, like the year that he won MVP, yeah, that team didn't go far, but the only reason they were in the playoffs is because
he was terrific.
of Russell Westbrook. It's like the year LeBron went to the finals in 2007. Like, when people hold that champion, you know, that getting swept by the Spurs against him, I'm like, you're basically penalizing LeBron for being great.
LeBron lost in the finals once when they should have won to Dallas.
Yes.
That was it.
Yeah.
Every other time that they lost, they were probably the inferior of the two teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, Russ is going to go down as really remove outside shooting.
Okay.
He's one of the most versatile offensive players the league has seen in a long time. He's going to be maybe the best rebounding guard in quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
He's up there as one of the best rebounding guards ever. There was a period where he was completely unstoppable getting to the paint. Like, the triple-double thing, when I hear people try to poo-poo it, I want to say, I think it was Baron Davis, I heard in a podcast sum it up this way, and it was a similar thought that I had, but he summed it up really well, and he's a player, so it means more from him. If every player in the league tried to average a triple-double, 97% of them could not pull it off. They would look foolish trying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the fact that you can actually do that, most players can't. Like, there are a lot of players, you said, like Steve Blake got a triple-double?
Yeah.
Most players don't have triple-doubles on their resume.
No, there's usually...
Much less averaging
Yeah,
one.
well, there's a part that is hard, whether it's the points or the rebounds or whatever it may be. There's usually one very clear... Steph Curry, for instance. Points and assists, sure, but for Steph Curry to get 10 rebounds feels like...
Yeah, and he's a really good rebounding guard,
and he
actually.
is, but he's not going to average 10 rebounds a game.
Like,
that's not going to happen.
And there are people who will say that Russ hunted assists or hunted rebounds.
Yeah.
Let's just say, for the sake of argument, he did. Most players aren't talented enough to hunt that successfully.
No.
Like, they're not going to be able to do it.
So everything you're saying, I agree with, and everything you're saying I think is accurate. But at the same time, when I just kind of step back and, like, the totality of Russell Westbrook's career feels something less than what I was hoping it would be.
It's because he was polarizing the whole time.
But I'm not, until he came to the Lakers, I was not anti-Russ. And even when he came to Lakers, I wasn't anti-Russ. I just didn't want Russ on the Lakers, if that makes sense. Every time I watched him play, it felt like it was fun, but this is not exactly what you need to have on your team to win a whole bunch of basketball games. Is it exciting to watch more often than Yeah. Does he play with incredible ferocity? Of course. Is he competitive? Probably, oddly, in a weird way, too competitive. Like, to just let the other four guys participate in this to a certain degree too. That I understand that what makes him him is this unending belief that my way is the only way and this is how we're going to make it happen. But I just feel like there's some part of his career that should have been slightly different. I can't even articulate exactly what it is. It just feels oddly unsatisfying that a player with that skill set kind of had the career that he did.
Well, I think it's in part because the things that Russ did not develop in his game, whether you're talking about outside shooting or off-ball utility or, certain things defensively, that's the stuff that really started becoming magnified once the athleticism was in relative decline. I mean, Russ will still have these moments where you're like, damn.
Yes.
But, you see it in the finishing. He doesn't finish the way that he used to. He does not have the same burst. He doesn't get around players as easily as he used to. He still can, but it's not as easy. Russ becomes extremely frustrating that way. Like, his weaknesses or his mistakes become incredibly loud. And then you get more upset at the idea of him playing recklessly.
The mistakes, the loudness of the mistakes, for instance, when you're the guy in OKC and not post Kevin Durant, okay? So the Paul George era and slightly before that. It was like, well, yeah, what else do you want him to do, right? Like, of course he's going to make some mistakes. It's the spots after that the mistakes feel more egregious because there have been opportunities, whether it's with James Harden or whether it's LeBron James or Anthony Davis or whatever it is, just can we not see the same mistake over
but here's
and
the
over
problem,
again?
though. Like, here's the thing, though, that makes this, like, something of an indictment of Russ, like, whether it's a lack of lack of interest in developing some of this stuff, or him trying and he just couldn't do it. Like, some of the reasons that Russ doesn't work is that lack of off-ball utility. So when you're teaming him up with, say, James Harden, who's a ball-dominant guy, or LeBron, who's a really ball-dominant guy, to some degree you have to change really what LeBron and Harden do. Like, they have to fundamentally change, because otherwise, like, why are you bringing him in?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, what's the purpose of this?
But that's the point that is so frustrating with me. That the only thing that, why does everybody need to adjust to him? Why can't he adjust to
because
others?
you brought him in.
I understand that. But when it's LeBron James is the one that's the best player on your team.
Right.
LeBron James is the one that is going to have the ball in his hands at the most
But
important
then why are
times.
you bringing in a ball-dominant guard?
That's a difference.
Like, if you're going to do
Andy,
this...
that part, I am 100... That's why from the moment I heard, I'm like, well, this is a terrible idea.
I mean, Russ adjusted in the sense that he played off the bench, which he clearly didn't want to do. And I think for the most part, he handled it pretty professionally. But he really didn't adjust his game at all.
None.
Russ played the same way. I don't even know if he's capable, other than, I guess, wanting
I think he's proven that he's not.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he's unwilling, incapable, or both. And in certain respects, it doesn't matter. Like, the result's the result.
Yeah, regardless of the motivation behind the refusal to change, it doesn't really matter, right? It's just he doesn't change. Let's try a quick phone call here. Let's go to Lakewood. And Joe, you're on with Trav and Andy. What's up, Joe?
Hey, Travis, and how you guys doing?
Good. Wonderful.
I was heard earlier that you guys were talking about, how Kevin Durant, Harden left Westbrook, but you brought up a topic just now about Paul George, how they had this big old party, and talking about how they're going to be in Oklahoma, and then he left him in Oklahoma high and dry to go play with Kawhi Leonard. Why would he want to go back and play with Paul George?
Well, he's going to. I mean, this is an opportunity to go to a very good team, an opportunity to, if Andy, if you're looking at this through the positives are accurate, it could be a decent fit if all the things that you're describing are. That look, guys will put some of this stuff aside very, very quickly if they think it benefits them, and this is a big benefit to him if it works.
From my understanding of a lot of this, and I'm not inside the Clippers or inside the Thunder, but my understanding of this was Paul George liked Oklahoma City, but he always wanted to go back to L.A. That was why everybody expected that he would end up a Laker. Like, for a while, there was more of an expectation that Paul George was going to be a Laker than LeBron was going to be a Laker. And it surprised the hell out of everyone when he ended up staying in OKC. But if Kawhi Leonard had not been also itching to come back, and the two of them couldn't have manufactured this way of going to the Clippers, I mean, maybe Paul George would have eventually come back, but I don't know if it's out of the question that he would have stayed in OKC. The point being, I don't think it was ever Paul George and Russ as a problem. It was L.A. presented itself to Paul George, and he wanted to come home.
And the OKC, it's when you get a trade package like that, of course, right? It's not like we're going to let this run out. He wanted to go. They were getting a king's ransom to do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like the Thunder had sort of maximized where they were going to go. And, I think the Thunder would have kept Westbrook there forever because it means something to a franchise like that to have that high profile of a lifer. But, once Russ decided that he wanted to go, I think they recognized it's probably time to blow it up anyway.
All right, Factor Cap is coming up next. We will get back to your Russell Westbrook phone calls. People are very fired up about this on both sides of it. Some people think it's really exciting, and other people have seen him play before. That's coming up next. Factor Cap coming up. It's Trav and Slee, 7.
All right, I'm talking to all 710 listeners right now. Let's start off with this. March 18th, it's a Saturday afternoon. Miles Square Park in Fountain Valley. That is where I am about to teach everybody a little bit about pickleball. And the reason is because you see my father here is a world champion pickleball player. And while I have never played pickleball, not one time in my entire life, I already got my own racket, which means I'm about to kick some you-know-what. So come on out and support. Be there. We'll all watch college ball games together, and we are going to win.
All right, we're reminding you that Pickleball Madness, or March Pickleball Madness, is coming up on March 18th at Miles Square Park in Fountain Valley. It's free for all non-participants, and there's a million things to do, Al.
All right, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Come out, hang out. We do these events every time we do them. We love having listeners there. We got our Pop-A-Shot Challenge. We got a beer garden going on. So we got everything going on. Don't forget that day.
Games for the kids. Bring the kids on out. It'll be a great time. You'll watch me and Al just wipe the floor with everybody because we're pickleball experts.
We'll be out in the first round.
Breaking news powered by Valvoline Instant Oil Change.
Home of the 15-minute drive-through oil change. Visit SoCalOilChange.com for coupons and locations.
It is Travis and Sliwa. We're here each weekday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and it's time for Factor Cap.
Oh, that's cap. That's so cap, Dad. Everything I've said is a cap, but I'm going to go back.
First of all, it's not a cap. It's
No, it
just
is a cap.
Welcome to Factor Cap.
Hey guys, me and Taylor are still also figuring out our team name for pickleball tournament. So if anybody has any suggestions for us, we are more than welcome as well. So this morning I had.
Are you guys partnered?
Yep, we're partnered.
Okay.
So we got to think about our
Taylor,
team
have
name.
you played it all yet?
No, I'm trying to recruit a partner to play with me in the South Bay. So.
And Emily, you've only gone out once?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like that.
How'd it go?
Andy.
It was fine. I think I'm like good with I have good hand-eye coordination, and I have really good like arm speed. Like I was good at serving when I played volleyball. So like I think that kind of translates somewhat, but it's not exactly an point A to B kind of translation. But
what if we combined Taylor's last name and Emily's biggest passion? You're the Smithies.
That's actually a pretty good name.
Not bad.
The Smithies.
Not bad.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think Taylor has to agree to it, but
Let's do it.
I like that. Okay,
There you
I like
go.
I like Smithies. All right, so
Problem solved.
this morning I didn't have the greatest wake up, so I
Raccoons.
No, we do have a lot of feral cats, but we did not have any raccoons. But we have like a single parking, like a long driveway, so we usually have to like park each other in. So I was leaving at like 6:30. I texted my roommate, "Hey, could we move cars?" Because she didn't ask me to move last night. So then I walk out my front door, and someone has completely blocked our driveway. Like I would have to hit them to get out of my driveway, and it's trash day too. So like they had also, I think, ran into our trash cans last night because I heard like a big rumbling last night, but it's not totally unusual for our street. And so apparently it looks like maybe they hit the trash cans, maybe they did. Anyway, I don't really know the context of what happened because we don't have like a Ring doorbell. But this person completely blocks our driveway. So I move the trash cans. I'm in a huff. I'm like really not that happy. And so my roommate tries to get out, and I push the car. I push the car into the space in front of me, and
How
moved.
far did you move it?
I moved it maybe like 4 feet. Like, it
You have
wasn't that far.
superhuman strength? How did you do this?
When she told me this story this morning, I'm like, the car was in gear and you were able to move it?
I don't know if it was in gear or not, but
But
I just
if a
I just
Marvel
tried.
character, how did you do this?
I had like the mom strength. I think of when your kids are underneath
What
the car.
type
it's
of
my
car
anchor.
was it?
It was pretty tiny. It wasn't like it was like a Kia, a Fiat or whatever. But it was.
Is it like a Smart?
It was not a smart car. It was like in between white car, which is a Kia Optima, and like a smart car. It's kind of like in between those two sizes. So anyway, I moved it a few feet. If I had video of it, I would show you guys. I did it.
I believe you. I'm just flabbergasted that you were able to do it.
And then I, in a huff, too. My roommate was just watching me do it. I don't know how she responded to it.
Get
but
in
then
there and help push.
She did not help. But then I went in my car, grabbed a piece of paper, wrote a note, and said, "Hey, next time you park in our driveway, I'm gonna get your car towed." Like, that's kind of what I said. So, in this situation, it's okay for me to leave a note. Travis, Feather Cat.
100% yes. I am not a big leave a note person, but if you're a nicer person than I am, one, because I don't want to upset you for fear that you will decide to apply some of that strength against me if you can move a car. But I would have had him towed this morning.
The only thing is, I need to get to work, and I didn't have time to wait for that.
I get it, and you're right, but this is one of those. You can't block someone's driveway, especially if the next morning is a work. Even I don't care if it's Sunday morning on Christmas. You can't block somebody's driveway like that. Yeah, absolutely leave a note.
Andy?
Yeah, like Travis, I'd have just had this car towed. I wouldn't have been screwing around like that. Like your roommate, who clearly had time on their hands because they didn't bother helping push the car, they could have waited for the tow truck to come by. I'd absolutely have the car. I wouldn't have bothered leaving a note.
Taylor?
Fact, I think they got off easy in this situation. I think you have liberty to do a lot more than that, but you just left a note. That's pretty nice of you.
Emily, can I ask a big favor?
Sure.
You need to go around to your immediate neighbors and see if anybody does have a ring cam, because I need to see you pushing that car out of the way. I really, really want to see the.
I feel like you're bearing the lead with this.
Yeah, I agree that to be able to move a car that is parked is not something to just move
It's supposed to be impossible.
Right.
And I'm like in the clothes that I'm wearing right now. I was like not like I was in like a special stuff. I just pushed. Maybe this car was like not in park totally or something like that. I didn't investigate.
Do you live on an incline of any
No,
type?
it's pretty flat.
It's pretty flat. Yeah. I've seen this person. I know this car, and I've seen the person in the car.
Maybe they left it out of gear so she could
been a
push it out of
manual.
the way.
Well, okay, here's what I'm
But you
thinking.
still would leave it in gear, Taylor, even if it was a manual, right? Or else it's going to roll.
You put the emergency brake on it stick. Here's what I'm thinking. You heard trash cans rattling, correct?
Yeah, like late
like
last
they
night.
might have hit him. My guess is this person had been drinking.
Throwing up blood.
So distracted from throwing up blood that they didn't remember to put the car in gear.
E-brake or whatever.
Like left it in neutral accidentally.
How? Like in
if
your
your car,
entire
if
life.
it's flat, I guess if you're that drunk.
But to get the keys out of the car, you have to put it in a park. I mean, you can put it in neutral, like you'd have to move it back. It's like there's a lot that would go into having to leave the car in neutral. It doesn't happen by accident.
There is a lot, but I mean, depending on how drunk this person was. I mean, this obviously.
Simplest answer: Emily is very strong.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm
Go
not
knock
trying
on
to.
some doors, Em. I need that footage.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try. All right, so the XFL started their season this weekend, and the DC Defenders have a drink that they pass out during the game that is like plastic cups with a lemon in it, and it's got like kind of just a fruity drink. And so people were drinking the drink and then building these really long cup snakes. So cup snakes is when you like stack your cups together, form a long line, and through the whole crowd. So security ended up breaking up these cup snakes, and people were booing them. And the people would take the lemon from their drink and started throwing them onto the field.
Is it a whole lemon?
It was usually like a half of a lemon.
Okay.
So like a half of a lemon out of their drink and throwing it onto the field. They had to stop gameplay. So this is an acceptable reaction from a fan for having the cup snake broken up. Andy, Fact or Cap?
I'm going to say Cap because you're the XFL and you're just trying to get started. You can't afford to have your games, have a stoppage. You can't afford to have a game potentially canceled because of unruly behavior. Like, you need to put your best foot forward, and these fans clearly love the XFL enough to go buy a ticket to show up to watch the Defenders. That's their name?
DC Defenders.
Like, it's a terrible idea. You can't do that.
Trev?
I'm more curious as to why an entire half of a lemon is in a cocktail. I'm okay with a wedge or even a little wheel, right, that you stick on the side of the glass. I think whatever gets people's attention on the XFL is probably a good thing. If it's cup snakes and lemon drinks, they need whatever attention that they can get. So I'm okay with whatever the XFL comes up with to try to get some eyeballs on it.
Taylor?
Yeah, I'm with Trav. I think it's on brand for the XFL, and they need more shenanigans like this.
What else is in that cocktail? This is so. I mean, is it a beer thing?
I need to send you guys a picture. So it's a mixed drink, and
Okay.
I think it has a
twisted tea,
an airplane bottle sticking out of the top of it. So it's kind of one of those things with the Corona and the margarita where you keep it open. And
How
then
did
kind of
that not
acid
get
it.
thrown onto the field? The airplane bottle.
Right, exactly.
Plastic one like that. It's got to have a good arm. You got to be like Jacob deGrom to get that thing on the field.
All right, so I have one more left for you guys. So Charles Barkley did not mince his words when describing how much fun he had in Salt Lake City over his birthday weekend and over All-Star Game weekend.
These people going to heaven up this way. Ain't nothing to do with this boring-ass city. Now it's boring? It's boring. Ain't nothing to do with this. I thought it was great. It's a great city. No, you just was like, these people, ladies, this is great. It's a great city, but ain't nothing to do with it. These people all going to heaven. Oh, my gosh. I never ate so much room service in my life. Can't smoke, can't drink. These people going to heaven.
All right, so no major sporting event should be in Utah. And I'm also going to preface this by, if the Jazz make it to the finals, obviously they can host it. But no major sporting event should choose to be in Utah. Taylor, Factor Cap.
I don't know. They've got their rules there. Let them have their fun. It's fine with me. Cap.
Travis?
Fact. Because here's the thing. These one-off events, not talking about a team advancing to the finals, but you're talking about a specialty event, a Super Bowl, an All-Star game, whatever it may be. These need to be in places where the people that are descending from all four corners of our country are excited to wind up. I've long had a theory, Andy, that the Super Bowl should only be allowed to be in 3 cities. The Super Bowl should be in Miami, New Orleans, and San Diego, and that's it. Those are the 3 places that the Super Bowl should be played. Everybody likes going to all 3 of those places. There's lots to do in all 3 of those places. The weather is almost always good in all 3 of those places. So let's do all of those things in those 3 spots.
Well, clearly, if you listened to Barkley and Shaq during this game, they found where the booze was. I mean, at the risk of speaking it out of pocket, those dudes were hammered.
Would you like to take a listen?
Yes, please.
What did you think of LeBron's selections among the reserves?
Man, ain't no bad picks today. All these guys are great.
Why does it sound like you're drunk? You all right?
No, man, it's my mic.
No, it ain't the mic. It's you.
The mic.
Hey, Mark Cuban. Down there. You all right?
Yes. Hey.
I feel like Shaq and Barkley, Saturday afternoon, Barkley was like, all right, let's make a vow. If Mac McClung wins the dunk contest, we do the broadcast Sunday hammered. What are the odds? Come on, let's go crazy. It's never going to happen. Because they both, particularly Barkley, sounded like they'd indulged.
Barkley, I spoke in front of microphones more or less my entire adult life. I've never sounded like that because of the microphone. I mean, there are other things that make you sound like that. Microphones are not one of them. He'd been properly pre-gaming, shall we say.
It was obvious.
All right. I mean, we okay with this? That seems... Look, I love Charles Barkley. I think he's an incredible personality. He has the thing that I think we would all love to have, which is this permanent get-out-of-jail-free card that no matter what he does, showing up to work hammered seems like something that's not okay, even if it's the All-Star game in Salt Lake City.
You know what, though? I mean, people want to hear Charles Barkley unfiltered. Like you mentioned, part of the get-out-of-jail-free card is the appeal of Charles Barkley. He's one of those people that we've just sort of decided can say what he wants, and unless it's just so ridiculously egregious, he's going to be able to get away with it. So that being said, why not have him juiced up? Really, I mean, what's the problem? As long as you trust him to not go too far, what's the problem with him having a few cocktails?
Well,
Like, really, what is the problem?
Just generally speaking, showing up to work with a few cocktails seems like a bad
Generally
idea.
speaking, you are not given the leeway that Charles Barkley is. Like, become Charles Barkley, and you can do that.
What do I have to do? What do I have to do? Because it sounds intriguing.
Be way more entertaining, way more funny. Be a much better athlete than you ever were in your prime. It's too late for you. You need to start grooming like Bobby or Michael.
No, they can groom themselves. I have no interest in helping them out. They're on their own. No Nepo babies in the Rogers household. All right, we've done a lot of basketball. I want to go to baseball here for a second. The Padres need to check themselves. Guys, I know you won a nice little series at the end of the year last year, but easy, fellas. That's coming up next. It's Travis Lee, 710 ESPN.
Oh, you.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
Oh, you all right?
Yeah, I'm totally fine. Okay. I'm okay. Yeah. First fall of the day. Oh, it's on camera.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
She moved a parked car. This is something that we just can't gloss by. This is an amazing feat of strength.
Yeah, I can't believe that your factor cap to us had something to do with the note.
Yeah, the factor cap, you too could move a parked car.
Right. Like, you're glossing over the fact, Emily, that you moved a parked car.
Okay, so this is what Tim the OC is saying here. It's like, it's really hard to push a parked car that's in gear, has to be in neutral, probably a manual car. You can still take the key off. This car could have been a manual car. It was a bit older, and it's one of those smaller cars that sometimes can do that. So I don't want to give myself too much credit, but it's a weird situation either way.
Here, was it difficult to move?
Yes.
Okay, then it wasn't in gear, or then it was in gear. But this is my point. If it were just in neutral on flat ground, we could all push a car and it would roll reasonably easily, right? Once you got it going, it would go. That this was hard to do means that it was likely in gear. This is like, I don't know, superhero stuff.
Don't make me angry, Hulk things.
Like I want to. You should enter like one of those. I don't know if they do it for women. I'm sure that they
strong
do. Like
woman competition.
Like strongman, where they have to pick up those rocks that they can barely put their arms
She'd
around.
be the new Magnus Vermagnuson.
Wanting to see Emily throwing beer kegs over the high jump bar.
Yeah, when
like
you picked up the car, Emily, did you sling it over your left or right shoulder?
I think it's going to be these things that maybe trigger me are the things that would get me so angry. So maybe it's like, if people like disrespect Taylor Swift, people, I don't know.
Pandora
can
users.
trigger me. There's a lot of things that can trigger me. So again, everyone that like gets mad about it, just watch out. Maybe, Taylor, this is our secret weapon for pickleball. If I get heated about something, I'll just serve everybody off the court, if that's even possible in pickleball.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. You it's a very unusual game. Power is not nearly as important as position, I'm discovering. But, of course, we got our Pickleball Madness coming up March 18th. I'll give you more details on that coming up in just a little bit. We'll get back to the Clippers picking up Russell Westbrook here in just a little bit. LeBron also said that the remaining 23 games of this season are the most important regular season games of his career. That, too, in just a second. But this just, as a Dodger fan, this kind of bothered me a little bit. This is what Drew Pomeranz had to say. He's a Padre pitcher. We're the little brother to the Dodgers for so many years. They always had their way with us. But you could see the shift coming, and then it finally came when we beat those guys in the playoffs. That was so huge for our organization. Another Padre pitcher, Craig Stammen, said, there were years we thought we were going to chase them down and they kicked our butt. Well, we finally beat them on the big stage. It creates a different belief. Okay, I'm not here to disagree with, look, when you finally beat somebody, it's not like the older brother, younger brother, or the kid that beats his dad for the first time. Once you realize, oh, I can beat those guys, it does create a little bit of a different belief expectation, right? But this, guys, baseball is the ultimate anything can happen over a weekend sport. Just because you beat and you did, by the way, I'm not here to pretend that it was anything other than the Padres played better than the Dodgers 3 nights in a row and they beat them. Pump your brakes, fellas. This is not a changing of the guard because you beat them in the playoffs. This is a much more even fight because you went and got a bunch of good players. This is not a you finally slew the dragon and we're ready to go. Now you're on more equal footing with them, talent for talent, than we have a belief.
That is, though, how the guard eventually gets changed, though. It eventually gets changed because you start beating somebody, and to your point, you bring in better players. I'm not saying that, I make it clear, I'm not saying the guard has been changed.
Right.
I'm just saying this is how the process goes. Because remember, when they made all of those moves, people expected them to be good. They were very slow post-trade deadline, and it started looking like it wasn't
They barely got in.
Right. It took a while for them to get going. So in theory, the Padres could be, this season, the team that everybody thought they would be post-deadline.
I'm going to make a call right now. This Padre thing is going to flame.
Nice.
It's going to flame. They're not going to be bad. They have too many good players to be bad. This is one of those, hey, we went out and bought everything there is to buy, and then you look at it and go, yeah, it just doesn't come together the way that it is. The Dodgers and their expectations this year, I think, are really beneficial to the Dodgers. That for the first time in a long time, people are saying, hey, the Mets are really good. Hey, Padres are really good. Yeah, they might be. The Dodgers are still really good, and everybody feels like we've caught up to them. And maybe on a spreadsheet you have, the Dodgers know how to win games. This group of Padres guys, they got hot for 3 weeks, and good for them. That's not the same thing as being a good team over the course of 6 months. This reminds me a lot of, 2 or 3 years ago, when after the Padres and the Dodgers met in the pandemic season, and they had that playoff series that was competitive. Dodgers actually swept the series, but the games themselves were competitive, and then it's like, hey, we're going to have 19 playoff games. The Dodgers steamrolled that team. They steamrolled that team. This Padre team is better, but this has a lot of beats like that where, hey, we finally got this figured out. Let's wait and see. It just does not feel like they just show up and are on equal footing. They're not there yet.
Sure. Here's the thing, though. They're not on equal footing when you look at the overall scoreboard. It's kind of like the Clipper-Laker thing, where people talk about, will it ever become a Clipper town or what? No, it's not going to. There's too much institutional heft that the Lakers have over the Clippers. Like, it would take the Clippers over like the next 20 years winning something like 15 championships while the Lakers don't go to the playoffs for 18 of those 20 years. And the Lakers just start falling into serious irrelevancy that starts to outrun the generational gravitas and institution that they built. But this is part of the process. Like, the Clippers have started beginning a process of relevancy in LA and just a process of carving out their corner of the LA sports space. I don't think they're ever going to overcome the Lakers.
No.
I don't think that's their goal. Their goal is to build legitimate relevancy. The Padres, this could be a starting point where obviously scoreboard favors the Dodgers over time, but for the present, they could be better than the Dodgers.
We'll see. We'll see. I also think that Fernando Tatis coming back is, again, very good player.
That's the wild card.
Very good player, but one of those guys that doesn't seem to really connect with a bunch of his teammates.
I was going to say,
he should.
When you heard his teammates talk about the suspension, there was very little sympathy.
They were pissed.
Yeah,
they were angry at what he had, the position that they'd put him in, because it felt like it was a fatal blow.
And it's also not the first time that he's screwed up.
He's a knucklehead. Now maybe he'll mature or grow up, whatever it is, I don't know. But he is an incredibly talented player that seems to make really boneheaded decisions.
And you know what's weird, too, is he's the son of a professional baseball player.
A long-time professional player.
And usually those are the guys that enter the league kind of understanding the things you're supposed to do and usually more mature.
He got here quick, and he's wildly talented. That is a mix. You're right. If you grow up around the clubhouse, you know that you don't do this, you do
it's
do
like
this.
Steph, it's like Clay.
100%. But this guy, baseball, got there very quick, had a great deal of success right as they paid him right away. Like, all of these things that could lead to a meltdown between the ears seems to have led to a meltdown between the ears.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's going to be the wild card, because either he comes back incredibly focused, feeling not just like something to prove, but like guilty, like feeling like I owe it to these guys to play my absolute best and make up for what I submarined.
Or he comes back in like, I'm the man on this team. Dude, you're like the fourth best player on this team all of a sudden. And if you not accept it, but if you realize we got
maybe
Soto,
the best
we got
thing.
Machado, we got Bogarts, like, we've got really good guys all of a sudden. Or if it's, why am I not on the cover of the media guide?
Right.
Why am I not this? Why am I not that?
Well, this year it's because you're suspended. Like, that's actually an easy one.
Ringworm. Leave him alone. Who hasn't gotten ringworm and needed steroids to get rid of
It's like the year that Manny Ramirez tried to get pregnant.
It's fertility drugs for everybody. But look, if it leads to 50 home run seasons, start passing them out. LeBron says that the final 23 games of the regular season, most important games of his career. It's coming up next. It's Trav and Slee. Andy's in for Slee.
Radio station.
Here we go. Travis Rogers, Alan Sliwa. Travis and Sliwa is on for your Monday. We're here each weekday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We begin 9 hours of LA sports talk all day long. Happy President's Day Monday. If you have the day off, enjoy it and keep 710 ESPN with you. If you're not, if you're working, well, so are we. All-Star Weekend is in the books for the NBA. And the Genesis Invitational out at Riv, we had a good time. John Rahm wins Tigers tournament. Meanwhile, the breaking news this morning, Russell Westbrook is back in L.A., just playing for little brother, the Clippers. We're going to react all day. Plus, Andy Kamenetsky, AK, is in for Slee today as Slee's All-Star break continues. Let's get to it for a holiday Monday. Travis and Sliwa right now.
Yeah. All right. Very quickly, I want to go back to the Genesis Invitational that Chris just mentioned right there. My oldest went out on Saturday. He's relatively new to golf. Like he started playing golf during the pandemic. Like he had no interest in it. It's one of the few things you could actually get outside and do. And he's got the bug bad. He went out with the three of his buddies on Saturday to watch Tiger. And he comes back, he's like, it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. And he was so fired up for it that Tiger Woods has never been Tiger Woods in his lifetime of paying attention to this kind of stuff, right? That Tiger still has that kind of pull for guys that are not huge, they like to play golf, but they don't watch golf on TV, right? They're not sitting down and breaking down equipment and all these sort of stuff. But that Tiger was still, I want to go see Tiger Woods this weekend. We don't get a lot of guys like that, much less guys that are well past their prime that can still draw a crowd like that. It was a sea of people out there.
Certain very rare athletes have this. Like my daughter, when she was little, she used to see me watching Laker games because, I didn't travel with the team, so if it was a road game, I was at home watching it. And, she was maybe three or four, which is around 2014, 2015. So this is the tail end of Kobe's career.
Okay.
When, he's missing a lot of games. When he does play, he's clearly not Kobe of before. But a lot of times he's just on the bench. And I remember my daughter, when she was little, she started noticing that they kept panning over to Kobe. So she asked me, who is he? And I explained Kobe's career and all that. And she became, and still is, fascinated by Kobe. And to your point, where you were talking about with your oldest, this was during a period where she never saw Kobe even close to Kobe. But she could recognize, importance. And I think that's the case with your son.
Magnetism.
Yes.
And just that thing that is impossible to define, but the second you see it, no, he's got it. And you see another guy, he doesn't have it. She just comes off of guys.
She is a Kobe fan who, for all intents and purposes, never saw Kobe play.
Yeah, it was really something. I was flipping around last night watching Netflix, and I saw the Full Swing documentary that, the guys that did Drive to Survive, which I loved. Kind of got me into F1, and I didn't know anything about it. And I'm like, okay, I like this guy, I don't like this guy. I'm rooting for this team, not that team. Kind of brought me in. I follow golf, okay? I watch golf. I like golf. Watched a couple of episodes out, I'm like, this is so boring. And it's just because there isn't anybody in that show, at least through the first two episodes that I've watched. Like, Justin Thomas seems like a very nice guy. Jordan Spieth, nice guy. Brooks Koepka's kind of maybe not. But it's like none of them were watchable. It's they're great athletes and they're great golfers, but there wasn't, I need to see what happens to this guy next. There was none of that. And then there's this nearly 50-year-old guy walking around on one leg that's got 30,000 people following him.
I mean, it doesn't take much to know who other people care about.
Yeah.
And you could tell. I mean, I told you, the one golf match I've ever been to, the only tournament I've ever been to was years ago at Riviera, and Tiger was basically the Pied Piper. Galleries were moving hole to hole with him. Never seen anything like that before, and I'm told that's unusual.
It is.
Usually people are stationary.
Usually you pick a spot, set up shop, and you watch everybody come through.
People were just going with Tiger. And, again, it speaks to just the rare breed that he was.
All right, so LeBron hurt his finger in the All-Star game? I don't think so. I don't think so. He said it's no big deal. He'll be fine. He'll be ready to go.
Mike Malone after the game, and Mike Malone knows LeBron very well because he used to coach LeBron in Cleveland. He was on the staff. when he was talking after the game, he said, nobody got hurt.
I think Mike Malone's read is probably accurate.
LeBron did a bunch of handshakes and like high fives and all this different stuff with the same hand that supposedly was hurt. Like I wish
he's fine.
I wish he just said like DNP old.
Yeah, look, I went out there, played a little bit, broke a sweat.
I gave you guys a dunk off the backboard.
Yes.
Lay off.
That's fine.
I'm sitting.
Here's what it is. I'm going to watch the rest
don't
over here.
Scare Laker fans.
Yeah, exactly right. He also said that the Lakers getting ready when they come back from their All-Star break, and they, of course, will open up with the Golden State Warriors on Thursday. He said that is the start of 23 of the most important games of his career.
23 of the most important games of my career for a regular season. It's the type of mindset that I have, and I hope the guys will have coming back off the break. I want to make a push to make the playoffs. I don't want to see myself not being part of the postseason for 2 years straight. It's just not part of my DNA. We're sitting up here talking about the record and things of that nature, and that's all cool, but I'm more passionate about trying to make the postseason and give ourselves a chance to compete for another Larry O'Brien trophy. So that's just who I am. That's what I'm cut from. Figure out a way to just make sure I'm available on the floor every single night for these 23 games.
Do you think that's him motivating himself? Because Emily brought this up this morning. I thought it was pretty smart, which was, is that directed at somebody? Is that directed at some bodies? In other words, hey, listen, we're getting ready to go into something that I don't miss the playoffs 2 years in a row. Do you know who the hell I am? Do you know what I'm about? Do you know what my legacy in this league is? And I'm going to approach these things like it is the most important 23 games. Y'all better get on board with this as well. Was that more to outward as opposed to inward?
I imagine it's both. I mean, I imagine it's LeBron projecting how he actually feels, because it wouldn't just be 2 years in a row. It would be 3 of the 5 years he's been with the Lakers, and
one of the 2 that counted was really quick. It was
right.
Play in and then sayonara.
Right. They played 6 games, and then the one extended run was not in front of the LA fans and was very specific and unusual, and I don't mean that in an asterisk way.
Sure.
But it was specific and unusual. I think there is some degree of motivation that is just required when you're at LeBron's age and, to really get this geared up. But yeah, it's to the rest of these guys. Like, what they're attempting to do is hard. They have to make up a lot of ground in a short amount of time. They have to get a bunch of new pieces on the same page quickly. I'm sure it is a message.
And with all of the other little, it's the All-Star game. There's always all sorts of weird stories that come out, and we kind of hear what we want to hear, and we can take something and turn it into something. But there was a lot of Anthony Davis, is his future in L.A.? Is it somewhere else? Is Kyrie Irving ultimately going to come to the Lakers and LeBron? All of those things that keep bubbling up, right? So I wonder if this isn't, because LeBron, for all of the wonderful things he is, the other thing is he's passive-aggressive.
Yeah, he is.
And he doesn't just say what's on his mind. He drops breadcrumbs and leaves them for interpretation and plausible deniability afterwards. This could be very easy. Dude, these are the most 23-point games of your career. These 23 games for you are going to prevent me from going to where I know what I'm going to do. I'm averaging 30 a night. I play, more often than I don't. I'm still playing at a very high level. You don't need to worry about me. I go to the playoffs. I am LeBron James. I do have 4 right on down the line. You over there, your 23-game run that's coming up is the most important 23 games of your career.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for the upside, AD's last game before the All-Star break, he was a monster.
He was great.
AD was fantastic in that game against the Pelicans, but he needs to be like that more often. Like his return since that injury has been underwhelming. He hasn't been bad necessarily, but he's been underwhelming.
No, but he hasn't been Anthony Davis.
Right. They need him to be much closer to the dude that was playing at an MVP level. Like, if not that good, maybe a shade lower. And that's it.
So Taylor. The reason I looked at Taylor right there is this was something that I brought up a couple months ago, and then it immediately happened. So I'm hoping it's not a 1+1 thing here.
Do it again.
But look, this was what I said when he was having that run, and I said, when do you buy it? When do you buy that? Okay, this is what he is again, as opposed to this is a nice 2-week stretch, 3-week stretch, 4-week stretch. How many in a row do you need to see before you can kind of exhale and not worry about, okay, is this just him on the peak before he goes back down in the valley? Is this the peak before he gets hurt again? Because there's really not, in my opinion, There's nothing he can do to convince me that he's Anthony Davis from the bubble, short of playing a full season like Anthony Davis from the bubble.
Well, the injury part of it is the injury part of it, and that's an element that's beyond his control. And I don't question whether guys can be on the court or not. Like, it's one of the few things I will not do because, A, I'm not their doctor, their therapist.
I'm not questioning his
and B,
ability
most
to play
guys
or
want
not.
to play.
I agree with both of those things, but the fact of the matter is he
Right.
misses a ton of time.
Right.
I'm not blaming anybody.
Sure.
I'm just saying he misses a lot of time.
The injury thing is outside of his control. Like, his body is his body. He can't make his body different. He can't make it heal quicker. The part about just the internal making himself be this version, like demanding it of himself, the thing that does give me some optimism is this stretch that we saw right before he got hurt. He seemed to be really enjoying it. Like, he really seemed to enjoy the idea of Anthony Davis, destroyer of all worlds. Like, he seemed to be actually relishing playing at that level. And maybe the underwhelming start was more just him getting his timing back, him not having LeBron occasionally for some of it. Like, you know, LeBron helps him be that version of himself. Maybe it's just legs, timing, whatever. But he seemed to really, really like it. Hopefully he rediscovers that.
I hope that's what it is, but I'm going to go with 2 years of it not being that's what it is. That seems more likely than a couple of months. Love to be wrong. Love to see him go through the remaining 23 games like they're the most important 23 of his career. Russell Westbrook has 21 games with the Clippers. Really? Really? That's next. It's Travis Lee, 710